learn about anti-aging. So the first question I'm going to ask is a real obvious question. Let me get this. There we go. How many of you want to live a long, healthy life?
As long as it's healthy, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a real, now, Kami didn't raise her hand.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, you did?
I raised
Okay.
it.
She's living her best life now.
You don't mean it.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, come on in. We
There's
can,
one, yeah, one more chair back there.
there's a chair here, and we can pull this one right here. And so we can just sit here. Okay.
No, but that way we don't have to hold it.
Okay, great. So, so tonight, what I want to do is tell you, give you some information that's all, this information has all been published, research, on how do we slow down the aging process? How do we make ourselves, get our bodies to the point where the aging process happens slowly? So, is aging based just on genetics, or are there other factors that we control? So many believe that there are factors that we can control in the aging process. Yeah, definitely. It's not just genetics. Okay, so Elizabeth, I'm going to start out with Elizabeth Blackburn. You've probably never heard of this person. She got the Nobel Prize in 2009 for her work on telomeres. And what are telomeres? Well, they're the caps at the end of chromosomes. They protect DNA, and when they're long, you're healthy and you're aging slowly. The faster these telomeres degenerate and shorten, the faster you're aging. Now you can actually get a telomere testing done. The thing is it doesn't tell you, if you get it done like now, it doesn't show you where you were like 5 years ago. So I don't know if there's any way of determining how fast you're aging. But telomeres respond to diet, sleep, hygiene, chiropractic care, exercise, and emotions, and toxic exposure. So crucial properties of telomere: they have the capacity to grow, unlike other strands of DNA, so you can actually lengthen your telomeres, okay? Long telomeres equal heightened health, short telomeres, many health problems. Let's see. Okay. Telomeres shorten with age, we talked about that. And telomere DNA protects against the proliferation of cancer cells. So when your telomeres start getting shorter, that can set you up for diseases like cancer. So anything that shortens telomeres shortens life and degrades health. So let's look at what does that. So if you want to be a geezer, make sure you have lots of unmanaged stress. Toxic stress shortens telomeres. So people that are under constant stress, whether at work or at home, that will shorten telomeres, create a sluggish immune system, and promote inflammation. Now that information comes out of a study called, a journal called Brain Behavior and Immunity in 2016. If you want to be a geezer, develop these personality traits: cynicism, hostility, pessimism. They actually shorten telomeres. That's the British Journal of Health Psychology, May of 2012. So your attitudes can actually determine how long you live. Does that make sense to people? It certainly does to me. And again, these are things that have been published, this research that have been published. Antidotes to pessimism that can lengthen your telomeres, trade pain for self-compassion. You think we beat ourselves up a little too much sometimes? I think we do. You know, I heard a pastor of mine say many years ago, he says, we don't need to kick other people because they kick themselves enough, you know, and I think there's a lot of truth to that. Become conscientious, purpose to wake up joyful. Okay, if you want to be a geezer, make sure you have significant depression and anxiety. These personal histories can change, but they shorten telomeres. Depression, we know, shortens lifespan and telomeres. This actually was in her book, Blackburn's book, The Telomere Effect, which was published in 2017. If you want to be a geezer, make sure you don't exercise, okay? Moderate exercise definitely positively affects telomere length. Now, I brought a book here that I just want to read you a couple of things out of here. This is a book called Outlive by Peter Attia. Anybody ever heard of him? Peter Attia? Yeah. What have you heard?
Well, actually, my son is really into Peter Attia.
Okay, good for
So
him.
I think he's, gotten this book and this podcast, and yeah.
Yeah, this is Peter Attia was a cancer surgeon at Johns Hopkins, and he quit cancer surgery because he realized he really wasn't helping these people that much. He said, I take out the cancer and they still die, 16 months later. And he says, what can I do to help people live longer and not get cancer? So he started researching, and this book came out of his research. So I want to read a couple of things that he says about exercise. I'm really passionate about exercise, so that's why I really like these chapters a lot. Just read you a sentence in here. The data demonstrating the effectiveness of exercise and lifespan are as close to irrefutable as one can find in all of human biology. It's a powerful statement. Now, I want to read something else. He talks about the ability to breathe, to take in a lot of oxygen, really, really important. But strength is also. Now, all of you that are patients of mine, and most of you are, know that I test grip strength. There's a reason why I do that. I read you what he says about it. Even I was surprised to discover that there's an enormous body of literature linking better grip strength in midlife and beyond to decreased risk of overall mortality. The data are about as robust for VO2 max and muscle mass. In fact, many studies suggest that grip strength, literally how hard you can squeeze something with one hand, predicts how long you are likely to live, while low grip strength in the elderly is considered to be a symptom of sarcopenia, the age-related muscle atrophy, which we just discussed. In those studies, grip strength is likely to be acting as a proxy for overall muscle strength, but it is also a broader indicator of general robustness and the ability to protect yourself if you slip and lose balance. Okay, that is why I test grip strength. Okay, now this isn't the first time I've read stuff like this, but this is probably the best two paragraphs I've ever read on it. So grip strength is really important. If you find that you don't have good grip strength, you need to practice it, okay? Just practice, those little things you can get at Walmart. There are little grip strength things or you can do just a hang, the deadlift hang is also good. But grip strength is really important. Muscle mass in the forearm is a proxy for muscle mass overall. When you decrease muscle mass, the more your muscle mass decreases, the faster you age. So that's really important. That's why I encourage everybody to exercise. If you don't have good grip strength, I encourage you to get good grip strength. And I've seen people go up. I have patients who were not very strong, And they, you know, for the 12 weeks or whatever that they had in between exams, they practiced it, and man, it went way up. And so, and I really encourage that in them as well. So moderate exercise, really, really important. Okay, if you want to be a geezer, make sure you never get more than 6 hours of sleep. Okay, so, you know, in college, we're all pretty sleep deprived and kind of thought that was a badge of honor. You know, you'd stay up all hours of the night studying. It was really messing with our brains is what it was doing. Some research shows that drinking cherry juice in the morning and evening can help with sleep. So people that have trouble sleeping, you can try that and see if that works. Sometimes it's sleep problems are adrenal issues. Your adrenals are exhausted and your cortisol is just kind of all over the place. That's something we can fix with supplements, and we can test for that. So sleep, very, very important. If you want to be a geezer, develop lots of belly fat. A high waist to hip ratio predicts 40% greater risk for shortened telomeres. So I'm just going to ask you this, what is the best way to get rid of excess body fat? What are some ways that will do that?
Diet.
Okay, what diet? What about diet?
Just, yeah.
Take the sugar out.
Right. Just low fat.
No cheating with the neighbor there. Okay, so I'll tell you. So here's the number one thing. Eliminate ultra-processed food and sugar from your diet. That is number one thing, ultra-processed food and sugar. Number two is you need to develop some sort of exercise program, strength training, and a program that will help get your VO2 max up, help you get your aerobic, your ability to have better aerobic fitness up. So those are the things that are really important, and they do work. I was glad nobody said Ozempic. Okay, that's a bad strategy. Okay.
What is WHR? What does that mean?
Waist to hip ratio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to be a geezer, stay away from anything with omega-3 fatty acids. So one study of 608 individuals showed the more omega-3 fats in their blood cells, the less their telomeres declined over 5 years. Okay, that's out of the Journal of the American Medical Association, which I think is kind of amazing that they would put that in there. So we do a test called it's a fatty acid test that'll actually tell you what your fatty acid balance is. It's a very good test. I've done it on myself. And because of that, I'm taking a little bit more liquid omega-3s now. And it'll tell you actually how much junk food or how much bad food you've consumed. There's a ratio that will show that. And if that's high, then we know that you're not eating well at all. Okay? So that's a great test. And it's actually a finger stick test. You do it finger stick, or you can do it venipuncture, but very good test. If you want to be a geezer, make sure your vitamin D levels are low. There's a really good study that came out this year in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. You probably heard me quote this before. Just 2,000 IUs a day of vitamin D showed lengthened telomeres. That's not a lot. 2,000? I mean, I take at least 6,000 a day. So that's not a lot. So just 2,000 in this study. If you want to be a geezer, make sure you are magnesium deficient. Low magnesium accelerated, every hallmark of aging. Okay, where'd I get that? Got that out of this study right here. This is a study called Magnesium and the Hallmarks of Aging. It's in a journal called Nutrients. This came out in February of 2024. This is exactly 10 pages of a study that shows they looked at every single hallmark, every single thing that you measure aging with in the body, and low magnesium accelerated every single one of those things. So magnesium's very easy to get. I like the magnesium, but we carry it in two forms, magnesium lactate and Easy Mag, which is a whole food concentrated magnesium. I like those two a lot. But this is a great study. I did a 10 minutes of truth on this a couple weeks ago. So magnesium and vitamin D and omega-3 are considered the big three nutrients that you want to make sure that you get enough of. And I mean, I'm not kidding. I've seen vitamin D, the optimal range, and you know, there's a lot of people that have written on this, but I'm saying it's probably about, you know, 40 to 100, 50 to 100, right in there. I've seen people with vitamin D in the single digits, like 5, 6, 7, you know, 11. I've seen it that low in people. Your body can't function properly with that level of vitamin D. So you can get out in the sun. Of course, we're getting to that time of year where we're not going to be able to do that. But vitamin D is really important. Now, here's another one. If you want to be a geezer, drink plenty of sugary soda pop. There's a study that came out in the American Journal of Public Health in December of 2014 that said people who drink 20 ounces of soda every day have the equivalent of 4.6 years of biological aging as measured by telomere shortness. Okay, so I haven't drank any of this stuff in decades. I mean, I just don't drink it. But if you do, you need to stop because it's really bad for you. And how many of you have been to the grocery store and see people putting 24 packs, you know, on the side of their cart, you know, they hang it over the side. I just go, how do they even have the energy to push the cart? I don't understand it. Not good. All right, if you want to be a geezer, avoid coffee. 2 studies show that drinking coffee protected longer telomeres. Here's the studies here, which are interesting because how many of you ever seen studies that say coffee's bad for you? I have, you know? And after a while you go, well, what is it? Which one is it anyway, you know? It's kind of hard sometimes to determine. That's why nutrition can be so confusing because you hear exactly the opposite things by people who are pretty credible. And you go, well, what is it? Well, I've decided I'm drinking coffee, okay? I'm going to do it. So, and I have a good friend. She's a health coach. She thinks coffee's like, you know, next to the devil. You know, she'll tell everybody she coaches, don't drink it. You know, she could be right. I don't know, but I'm still drinking it. And here's 2 studies that show that it does promotes longer telomeres. So if you want to be a geezer, avoid the Mediterranean diet. People who follow a Mediterranean diet tend to have longer telomeres no matter where they live. If you want to be a geezer, drink more than 4 alcoholic drinks a day and eat lots of processed meat. You know, the 2 things that we know, things that you can consume that we know are carcinogenic besides cigarettes, are processed meat and alcohol. We know they're carcinogenic. We know none of it's good for you. Now, I mean, if you eat like a Reuben sandwich every once in a while, that's not going to kill you. You have a glass of wine occasionally, that's not going to kill you. But, you know, alcoholic beverages are carcinogenic, and you shouldn't drink very much at all. Foods that lengthen telomeres: fiber, nuts and legumes, fruit, vegetables, seaweed, and foods containing omega-3 fats. Now, there may be more than that, but those are the ones that I know of. Foods associated with shorter telomeres: processed meats, sweetened drinks, white bread, sweetened soda, omega-6 polyunsaturated fatty acids, which you need some of this. For that fatty acid test I give you, that I do, they do an omega-6 omega-3 ratio. And that ratio is really, really important when it comes to inflammation and health. And I did mine, and I mean, my ratio could have been better. So I'm consuming more of that now. And that's why I did the test, because I think it's important. If you want to be a geezer, make sure that you damage your microbiome with lots of antibiotics and pharmaceuticals, and eat a diet high in sugar and ultra-processed food. Now there's over 6 things that cause a shortening of telomeres and loss of length of life due to a damaged microbiome. Now I'm not going to go into all those things. We don't have time tonight. I'm just going to say your microbiome is incredibly important. We have a microbiome test here that we can do to figure out how healthy yours is. It's a real easy test to do, and it does tell you quite a bit. So protect your microbiome. Be careful about the number of pharmaceuticals you take, your diet. If you have to take pharmaceuticals, make sure you're eating a lot of whole foods and fermented foods as well. How our social environment affects telomeres. If you want to be a geezer, again, this is very interesting. Live in an unsafe neighborhood with poor social cohesion.
Chicago.
Yeah. Portland.
Yeah.
Residents of higher quality neighborhoods had significantly longer telomeres than those lived in moderate or poor quality neighborhoods. This is Public Library of Science in 2015. Now, here's the thing about that study that I think is interesting, or it could be interesting, is that do people that live in these poor neighborhoods, what kind of diets do they eat as well? So is it the bad neighborhood or is it the bad diet? You gotta you think about that. I don't know. Here's another one. If you want to be a geezer, make sure you live in a concrete jungle surrounded by very little greenery. This was in Lancet, one of the major medical journals, in 2009. People who lived in areas surrounded by parks, trees, and rivers tend to have longer telomeres. One of the things about Lincoln is we do have a lot of greenery here. We do have a lot of parks. Don't have any rivers really per se, but that part's really good. I think Lincoln is really a great place to live, actually, compared to some of the other areas of the country. If you want to be a geezer, make sure you get lots of exposure to pesticides. 7 pesticides have been linked with significantly shorter telomeres to agricultural workers who applied them to crops. So you think, as everybody here, are you familiar with the fact that people that manage or take care of golf courses tend to get cancer a lot easier? Have you ever heard that? I have. They don't live as long, okay? Because they're constantly around these pesticides and herbicides that they spray on the golf courses. And I mean, the reason golf courses look like they do is because they're sprayed, a lot.
How about living around a golf course? Is that kind of poor for your health too?
Could be, because all that stuff could be blown, into your house. Could be, yeah. I mean, I remember when I was in chiropractic school, we didn't know any of this then, back in the late 70s. I used to jog around golf courses and all of that, right on the golf course, and I didn't realize that all that they looked so nice was because of all the chemicals they were using on them. Now, I'm not saying you should never golf or anything like that, but you just need to be aware of it. If you want to be a geezer, avoid chiropractic care at all costs. So there's a small study that showed an individual under chiropractic care for 5 months had telomere growth of 8.33%. Now, we need a bigger study than this, okay? I'll just say that. This is a very small study, and it was in the Journal of Molecular and Genetic Medicine in 2017. But we certainly need a lot more research on that to prove that that's true. And I think Deed Harrison, who's one of the most prolific researchers in all of healthcare, is a chiropractor. I think he's doing a study on that right now. This particular individual, Dr. Harrison, has over 350 published studies in PubMed which is like, he's in the top 2% of all authors in PubMed, which is saying something because there's millions of authors. Chiropractors in the top 2%. If you want to be a geezer, make sure you never get married. Married people tend to have longer telomeres. If you want to be a geezer, avoid sexual intimacy in marriage at all costs. Couples who engage in sexual intimacy have longer telomeres, and that's from Blackburn's book, The Telomere Effect. If you want to be a geezer, internalize any discriminatory remark made against you. Low-income black men who experienced discrimination and internalized it had shorter telomeres. That's the American Journal of Preventive Medicine, 2014. If you want your children to be geezers sooner than later, drop out of high school. This is interesting. Mothers who were high school dropouts had babies with shorter telomeres. Started out with shorter telomeres. Isn't that interesting? You know, if you want your children to be geezers sooner than later, make sure you deprive yourself of protein while pregnant, and coenzyme Q10 supplementation is shown to reverse this. Make sure you get too little or too much folate. So you need about 400 to 800 milligrams a day. It should be in a whole food form, and we have 2 supplements that have whole food folate and B12 in it, which I take that regularly. By the way, since we're on this subject of pregnancy and health in pregnancy, I'm going to ask you a question. What would you consider the most healthy foods for a woman to eat while she's pregnant?
Eggs.
Bingo, good job. Yeah, especially like pasture eggs. Why is that? Can you tell me?
Something about it, it contains everything you need to grow a chicken, so everything you need to grow a human too.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so you can't grow a chicken out of a bagel, you know, but you can grow it out of an egg, okay? So egg yolks contain lots of choline, which is very important for brain function, for developing brain. Anybody think of another food? Might not get this one. Good job on that one, Maggie. Anybody think of another food that's really, really good for a pregnant woman to eat? I'll tell you what it is. What? Liver. Good job. You got both of them. Liver and eggs. You want to eat, you want to have a healthy kid, eat lots of liver and lots of eggs while you're pregnant. Because they have, you know, pasteurized eggs have omega-3 fatty acids. They have all the minerals, vitamins, and liver the same way. Very high in protein, very high in lots of nutrition. So, you know, the worst things that you could eat are, you know, chips and soda, things like that. And I said this last week at my microbiome talk, but when back in, I think it was 1988, when I was practicing in Hastings, somewhere in there, I had a patient who brought her newborn in, and she was feeding her newborn Coca-Cola out of a bottle. And I almost went through I didn't yell at her or anything, but I almost went through the ceiling when I saw that. But she didn't know. You know, she came from a family that just, you know, they were kind of hillbillies, and she just didn't know, you know. And so I told her and explained to her how bad that was, and, you know, hopefully she changed. I don't know if she did or not, but it happens. Those things happen. If you want your children to be geezers sooner than later, make sure that you suffer extreme stress and anxiety when you're pregnant with them. American Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology is where that came from. If you want your children to be geezers sooner than later, neglect them when they're young, expose them to multiple traumatic events. So I think this can be overcome. My mother grew up with a very abusive alcoholic father, and she's 95, and she's one of the healthier 95-year-olds I've ever seen. But she also did a lot of things for her health too. So I think these things, I mean, she saw a lot of abuse, a lot of alcoholism, but these things can be overcome if you work at them. And she figured some things out and has really worked at it. Moderate child adversity is healthy. So a little bit of stress in our life, we need that. So some of it is good if a child has emotional support. So this is a shorten your telomere lifestyle right here. Hopefully none of you are doing this, okay? And good. Anybody have any questions about what I've gone over tonight?
I have one.
Yes.
Vitamin D. I've heard where you should take K2 with it to absorb it. Is that true?
Yeah, it's better.
It
You
is.
know, yeah, it's better for you. And most of the vitamin D that I have has that in it.
The K2.
Yeah. It is better.
And how much mcg of the K2 would you need?
I don't know,
Oh.
to be honest with you. Here's the thing. When we're out in the sun, are we getting K2? Not
Right.
necessarily.
Yeah.
But our body is making vitamin D. Okay, so, you know, that's something to at least think about.
Mhm.
Can you explain the difference between pasture raised and free range? Because I've been told pasture is better for eggs and over free range.
Well, if chickens are allowed to roam free
Right.
and eat bugs, you know, that's gonna be a lot better. Now, free range, and I've seen people raising it like this, and these eggs aren't horrible. They're not caged up, but they're like in a big pen, you know, where they can eat bugs and things that fly in, but they're still fed feed. So that would be uncaged chickens, okay? But if you have chickens that are like the way my grandmother raised them, you know, which was kind of out there, and you know, and you know, those were chickens that ate properly, you know. And my grandmother lived to be 99 before she died. She was pretty healthy up until then.
Just think how long you got yet to live.
I don't know if I want to live.
You got a long time to work yet.
Yeah, I know. Plenty of time to work, that's right. Anybody else? So most of you know that we're in the stages of we're going to do a patient appreciation day at the end of this month, and I'm going to have came in to make smoothies because she did such a good job last time. And so we're going to be offering the last 3 days, the 22nd, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, complimentary spinal evaluations for any of your friends or family, anybody you know that you want to get at least checked. And so if you want that, if you know people, and you probably do, that need to get checked, just call Carmen and we can set them up for a 10-minute screening, which we won't charge them for, and we do it at our expense. And we just want to see if we can help more people get under care so they don't have to suffer. So that's coming up, and here's what we're going to do. And I just decided this day, I'm going to give away a nice flat screen TV that we're going to only put tickets in for if you sign people up for the screening. So, or if you bring somebody as a guest to the next talk, which I think is going to be the 21st on toxins. So if you bring a guest to that talk, you get 10 free tickets to be put into the hopper for the TV. Or if you sign somebody up to get a screening and they actually come in, you get 10 tickets, okay? So that's what we're going to do. I know some of you may have 4 or 5 TVs in your house, and that may not be an incentive to you. That's what we're going to do, okay? So any other questions? Other than that, it's 5 after 7. Thank you for coming tonight. If you want the slides, let me know. I'll be happy to give them to you. You probably do. Yeah, okay. And I know you already did. Yeah, I got your email address. Great. Good. Thanks for coming tonight.